Welcome to another episode of the Destination Linux podcast.
Welcome to episode 83 of Destination Linux. I'm Michael Tennell, and with me today is Ryan. What have you been up to this week, Ryan?
So, first, I was just going to talk about the fact that I've installed a brand new PCI slotted fan into my case to help cool the Vega 64 and Ryzen 7 2700X to give some extra cooling to the beast. So that's exciting. But then what happened, and I'll get back to that in a second, is Zeb went out on our Telegram group and started dropping pictures of his Raspberry Pi, showing it off, shoving it in my face, like, look what I got, look what I'm doing. So you know what I did? I got my Raspberry Pi out. I have it sitting here. I've got Raspbian on it because I was not going to be outdone. So whatever project he does on his Raspberry Pi, I'm going to top it tenfold at least. And
tenfold savagery.
Yes. Yeah, like if he goes and he creates like a website, I'm creating a full automated AI robot on this thing. I mean, I'm going full out. But no, naturally. But I did put that PCI slot fan in, and I wanted to see. It's a big 220 millimeter fans on this. It goes inside. It goes between your video card and your CPU on the motherboard, or depending where you have it. It doesn't actually connect to the motherboard, by the way. It's just it just sits there in one of the slots, the open PCI slots. So the temperatures. Do you want to know what this amazing device was able to do?
Oh, absolutely. I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right.
2 degrees.
Zeb, you killed the whole excitement here. You killed all the excitement. It was 4 degrees, sir. 4 degrees. I got cooler now. So obviously I can overclock everything, and it's all going to run swimmingly well. But it was only $14. I wanted to try it and see what the difference is. So if you've seen these fans out there, you get about between 4 and 8 degree drop in temperature, which isn't terrible. I mean, for $14,
pretty good for $15.
Yeah, So that's what I've been up to.
All right, cool. So also with us this week is Zeb. What have you been doing this week?
Hiya. Well, I've been replacing that behemoth of a monster monitor that I had. You know, that 43-inch thing that used to just totally dominate my desk.
Yeah.
So
now
I've
we got
given that to my son.
I got a new custom camera angle too.
Yeah, that's because I've gone down to a much more sensible 27-inch monitor. Still 4K. So I'm now having to deal with HIDPI issues because now everything, if I have it 4K, is like I'm squinting at the screen. So I've got to find a distribution that works incredibly well with high DPI. But it was all good. It was a fun week.
Fantastic. So starting the show, we're going to start with the email we got this week. So Zeb, if you would do the honors.
I will do, and I'm not gonna lie, but this particular email was quite heart-wrenching when I read it. So I'm not really good at heart-wrenching stuff, but I'll do my best. So the email starts off. I stumbled across the podcast at a time in my life when I was struggling with the worst depression and anxiety I had ever experienced in my life. I am so grateful that I did find it, though. The very first episode I saw had Martin Wimpress on as a guest. The banter between Ryan and Wimpy was the first thing that was able to make me laugh in months. I can't describe how much I appreciated all of the hard work from the past and current lineup. You guys renew my passion and excitement for Linux every week. Thanks for helping create and maintain a community that cares about a project that is actually making a difference in the world. And a community where I can remain silent but still feel like I'm surrounded by friends in Discord and Telegram. Friends who love to talk about Linux and computers as much as I do and won't perceive me as just some nerd that isn't worth talking to. I feel home. All of your hard work is what keeps us going and drives us to want to learn more. I genuinely can't thank you guys enough for everything you do. I'll be around as long as Destination Linux is around. See you Saturday. And on that note, I would love you to take you up on that offer, and can I have some stickers?
You're going to have some stickers, my friend. You're definitely getting some stickers out there. Listen,
I got some goosebumps from that.
Yeah, this email, I shared it the second I saw it come in the box because I don't think we've ever received an email this kind of amazing, and I don't know, it just made us, it made me, and I know everybody else, just feel incredible about the show and keeping it going. You know, obviously we're figuring out all the ways to keep the show going with 3 hosts now, and the amount of love and support that we talked about even last week, it's grown even more this week. It just keeps compiling. People want the show, and obviously the show's had an impact, and it's just an amazing, thank you for taking the time to share that with us, because it definitely makes an impact on our lives, and makes us want to continue on for sure.
We'll move on, and we're going to talk about some summertime news, and in that is Summertime Solus. This is a really cool thing that they talked about on their blog, which they did a Hackfest, and they did a 10-hour video, and you can watch that, the whole thing of Josh and Brian hacking around on Solus projects on YouTube. So just some more details about that, Ryan. What did you think about this?
Well, I love this idea of the Hackfest. Every time we've covered Hackfest, what we see come out of them is incredible, and there are many companies, big companies out there that do these, but I love seeing it with distros. We love Solus. We love having Ike on. We've had him on the show several times. He's a huge hit. People love seeing him on Destination Linux. So anything related to his project is always a hit. And funny enough, Solus has been really popular in our Telegram group recently. There is a lot of people talking about Solus. So the hype train is back on the Solus world and the Budgie world as well. But this 10-hour video features Brian and Josh from the development team. And it's what is really neat about them doing a 10-hour YouTube video is they actually have their code up. So what I liked about this idea is you could sit there and watch them working on these various projects. And if you yourself are interested in getting involved in projects and things like that, you can see the tools they use. You can see some of the code that they write and how they interact with each other, which is really cool. In addition to this, they actually accomplish some really great things for their project. Now, as a consumer of it, you may not see those benefits right away, but one of those projects is Cuppa, and it's what Cuppa is. These are new developer tools, will allow them to basically track software updates across all the platforms. And until I was looking into this, I didn't think about the fact that they have to track on, different software packages that are loaded on GitHub, CPAN, Gnome, Hackage, JetBrains, Launchpad, PyPy, RubyGem, all these different areas where a package could be and exist, and try to find out, is there an update for it? So when they're releasing a new version, they've got to pull up each package, find out what the latest version is, find out what site it's on, pull it down. If the developer moved it, well, then you got a whole nother issue. Well, this tool does all that for them. Helps keep track of where all the projects are upstream and allows it to be pulled down, which is going to save them a ton of time. So I thought that was a really, really cool package. What else did you see?
Amazing, really.
Yeah. And the one thing that you don't see is, yes, all these upgrades are coming in. They've then got to try that upgrade to see whether or not any type of regression has crept in that then breaks something further down the line. So it's amazing that they've got a tool that helps them look, but they've then still got to do the graft to pull that particular version in, try it with all their products, and just work out whether or not it's going to break. And we sit here moaning, where's the next version? Where's the next version?
Exactly.
They've been on 3.99999 now forever.
Right.
There's so much work involved. It's just awesome. And watching these guys, I don't know if you've ever sat there in an office and had somebody watching you typing over your shoulder.
Oh, gosh, it's terrible, especially coding.
I make so many mistakes just trying to type an email if someone's watching. And yet these guys have got thousands of people watching them on YouTube. Awesome. Truly awesome.
That's a big task to undertake.
Yeah, you have to be very confident in your coding, and I work with some amazing coders at my job, and the second they have to share their screen, it's like they freeze. Like, oh my gosh, how do I type anything? It gets to the point where we all laugh about it and just turn off your screen and write the code, because you just have that, I don't know, the nerves that kind of kick in. So yeah, it was cool. I love that they put it on YouTube for everybody to see, because I know a lot of people, including myself, have always been interested in how can I get more involved? What tools do they use? Will I look like an idiot? Well, yes, the answer to that is yes. But will I look like an idiot because I don't even have the right IDEs pulled up, that type of stuff. So you get to see all of those things with them live. They also did other work in this 10-hour video as well. Like they have the EOPKG depths release of the tool, which is basically goes out and looks for dependencies of these tools out there. I don't know everything of how exactly it works, but it goes out and looks for the dependencies that are needed and attempts to find them or figure out what's going to break to stop packages from having fallout. So again, some more developer tools in there as well. They also did some work that you would be able to see for Budgie 10.5. They're going to introduce a new Raven section in the Budgie desktop settings. This will allow things like raising the volume past 100%, focus windows for your mouse movement so you can change the settings. So Budgie's getting a lot more customizable, which I think is some feedback based on what I was hearing and reading in the notes that they've gotten that they're taking to make things more customizable and add some of those features and things you can change, like text scaling and those type of features allow you to tweak things a little bit while you're messing with it. And then they did some bug fixes as well in there. And listen, the Budgie team and the Solus team, they just do some incredible work. I mean, the coding that they accomplish from the beginning, it may not be for every single person, may not be in love with Solus, but I guarantee you every single person who's used it respects it for what it is because it's very, very solid code. So you're getting expert level. You're getting to watch experts at work if you watch that video there.
Yeah, I also think that Solus is like one of the most polished by default out of the box experiences, and to now add an extra layer where you can customize that experience is going to make it much better. Like it'll make it one of the top options.
Yeah, and the other thing that made me really fall in love with this entire development team is the screenshot on the work that they did for this summer release shows somebody having a music player. There is one album in that music player. It is 9 Inch Nails with Teeth album, 9 Inch Nails being one of my favorite bands of all time. So, see, I got something in common with the Solus developers there. We're like this. You know what I mean? All right, maybe not. But there is another distro in there that has some news. At least we like the same taste in music. Netrunner rolling 2018.08 is here. So Netrunner has a Debian and an Arch base that you can play with, and it sports... It's like you write this stuff, Michael. Another KDE article. It sports the KDE desktop environment. But this distro is based on Manjaro and features rolling releases and a very polished KDE implementation.
So, no, I haven't actually tried this particular version of Netrunner, but Netrunner used to be one of my go-to distributions when I just needed to get something on that worked. I think they used to be based originally on Kubuntu. And then they jumped from Kubuntu over to Manjaro. And that was at a time when I thought Manjaro was pretty good. So, yeah, I've used it. And I don't know how they do it, but whatever base they put themselves on, they seem to add a bit of polish, a bit of pizzazz, a bit of design flair. And you immediately know it's a Netrunner distribution. So, yeah, they produce some quality distros. I like them.
Michael, have you ever checked out Netrunner?
Yeah, I'm a fan of it. I'm not really sure about the rolling version. I haven't tried the rolling one, but the Debian version is really solid.
So we ran into a question on here when we were doing a kind of a review of our notes, and one of the notes for the changes in this version is seamless GTK app integration, basically meaning you'll now have KWin borders on GTK apps so they don't look different from each other. But, Michael, you were, as our resident expert, were saying that's always been the case everywhere else. So what gives on that?
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, it doesn't, to me, that statement doesn't make any sense because I've been using Plasma for years, and I've never seen that as a problem. Like, it might be a problem in some cases, maybe, but if you're using one of the universal formats or something like that, but I've never... just a basic application of GTK is perfectly, accessible. And I think it could be some distros don't take into consideration the integration work that the GTK, that the KDE team has done with GTK. So there are possibilities that they just don't include those packages to make it work. But there's been, especially in Plasma 5, there's been a GTK integration system for years because it allows you to have the integration with not only the window borders, but you can also have it where the color scheme from the Qt version of the applications will migrate to the GTK version. So that statement doesn't make any sense to me.
So maybe it's just an issue they had, maybe in a prior version, potentially. It could be, and they fixed it. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
They have new Plasma theme and wallpaper. They've added a new Plasma tweak section. They've updated a bunch of packages. So I hadn't played with Netrunner before. I hadn't heard of it, but I downloaded it when it came up in the news and started playing with it. Now, I'm not a fan of KDE's attempts at a dashboard menu. I just do not think it works well. Like, the Gnome dashboard to me is well done, the KDE dashboard, although you can tweak it, and certainly you can change it to any menu you want, so it's a small thing. That was the first thing I had to change immediately. But after that, I thought it looked beautiful. I mean, it's based on Manjaro, which is a fantastic Arch-based distribution in itself. Now, they do some work, I guess, with under the hood in their own patches and packaging, which is one of the things I researched, because I'm like, well, what are you doing with, what do you need to add into Manjaro? Because Manjaro has a KDE version as well. And it looks like they include some of their under the hood patching and packages, and they have things that are not in the Manjaro Arch repositories by default. So I guess they do some of their own kind of tweaking and tweaks out there to make it a different experience than Manjaro.
Yeah. They had extra, like they improve some features, and they do more polishing towards the Plasma aspects of it.
And I guess they take a little longer to release some of the updates, not a lot longer, just a tad, and because of that it may be more stable. I heard some comments when I was researching of people saying that. I don't know if that's true or not, but that is what some people's opinions were on it, that it was slightly more stable with the package releases. So there you go.
Well, I mean,
yeah. I was going to say, sorry, it certainly seemed very stable when I was using it as a daily driver. Never had many issues with it at all.
The less fast you change things, the more likely that things will not mess up as much.
Imagine that.
Yeah. So regardless of like whether it's stable or not, if you just don't change anything, it's going to be stable, because if it works, it works.
Stop updating your machines, people.
I'm not saying that, okay? I'm just saying, like, stability and the term stable in software doesn't mean the same thing.
Okay.
Well, that's a really strange statement as well, because there's always news about Plasma having another version coming out. And oh, look, lo and behold, KDE Plasma 5.14 adds new features to upgrade firmware. Now, when I read this, the back of my mind started tingling, and I had visions of me back in 1980 updating a gateway computer, putting the floppy disk into the machine and telling it to update the BIOS, and then like 45 minutes later, no machine.
Right.
So I've not touched a BIOS update since, but apparently this has got new technology, and they're working with one of the largest laptop manufacturers in the world, Lenovo, to try and get all this stuff ironed out. Now, I know, Ryan, you keep up on this sort of stuff, so tell me why this is a good thing.
Oh, this is incredible. It really continues to show. The one thing I will always give KDE is they push the envelope of technology for Linux and what it can do. I mean, they did that with the phone connections, being able to connect and have, that seamless integration with messaging and everything for your phones. They kind of do it across the board. It's one of the most beautiful desktops when you get into it ever, because of all the technology and things that they put into it. But this is taking things again to a whole new level. So, for instance, recently I purchased a MSI X470 Carbon Pro Gamer motherboard for my Ryzen 7. And I've had nothing short of 7, I think it's been 5 actually, but it feels like 7 BIOS updates that have occurred since I bought it. Now, this is very unusual. Motherboards, generally, you are not updating the flashing the BIOS that often on them. But
typically,
I'm guessing
no more than once every 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's something most people don't even touch. But in my case, my motherboard allows you to update it with the USB drive, so I don't have to boot into Windows. However, people who have certain laptops or certain computers that don't have that feature of being able to flash via USB actually have to go into Windows, because that's the only supported method to complete those firmware upgrades, whether it's with video cards, motherboards, other things. So this requires you then as a Linux user to keep a Windows partition on your machine, whether it's your laptop or whatnot. That's a horrible situation to be in. So what this group has done now is they've started working on the LVFS, the Linux Vendor Firmware Service, and they're bringing in manufacturers into here to allow you to update and flash your BIOS from Linux itself. And the companies that are on board currently are two of the biggest manufacturers of laptops out there, and that is Dell and Lenovo, as you mentioned. So this is absolutely huge, I think, and a fantastic way of allowing people to stay in Linux full time and bring in the vendors into the Linux world.
Right. And also it allows them to do, because the motherboard is part of the updates of the firmware, it allows it to also submit firmware updates to other peripherals that are attached to the motherboard. So it becomes more than just the motherboard itself, as devices and all kinds of things. So like the fact that Lenovo has announced that they're becoming a partner for this is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So,
now they're using the FW update library and then the FWUPD, I guess is what it's called. Forward update, maybe is what it stands for, something like that, backend, which was developed by Richard Hughes. So they're taking work from other folks, they're putting it all together, but essentially this is going to be there. And the only other laptop manufacturer that had something like this was System 76. If you're in Pop! OS and you had a System 76 laptop, you could update the firmware through the operating system. I don't know what they use to do that, but this now adds
it's
in
a custom one they built.
Dell and Lenovo. So I think it's amazing work. And I love that KDE continues to push this. And I love that we've got these big developers in, because a couple episodes ago, we talked about Dell releasing their new XPS lineup of laptops with Linux support in there. Of course, a lot of people in the Linux community love Lenovo, so those are your two biggest ones right out of the box.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we just need to let HP know that they're on notice.
That's right, HP, get with the program.
So coming up is we have some new updates that also they're getting with the program, and that's Xorg. So Xorg has a new release of 1.20.1. And this one has a lot of good stuff that's actually related to hardware improvements, but there's a lot of good Wayland stuff coming. So Ryan, what do you think about this?
Well, I spent some time after moving to AMD and playing with the Wayland, and I'm excited for Wayland and what it can be, but I'm also not somebody who could use it full time. For instance, like even in OBS, being able to record a screen feature didn't work. In gaming, the frames per second were 30, 40 frames per second less than what you would get in X. Now, they're still working on it. They've been working on it for 10 years, but Xorg's been out there for what, 20? I don't know. Been out there for a while.
30.
So, they're still working on it, and they're doing fantastic work. But one of the things I loved seeing in the Xorg Server 1.20.1 release is the EGL streams for X-Wayland patches. So X-Wayland is basically an ability to try to run X services within Wayland. Is that the right way to describe it, Michael?
Yes, it's trying to run X code on top, using Wayland as the protocol, but using X to render everything. And X-Wayland is it's a shim or a bridge between the two.
Which this is amazing because you have these two projects, and I don't think they're really competing against each other, but now they've created this bridge between them. So Wayland, technically with X-Wayland in there, can become a lot more compatible with some of the other software that it's not today, and allow you to actually have a pretty good experience within Wayland. Because right now, Fedora 28 in a Wayland session, and if you're doing anything that's not, your basic, Chromebook activities like browsing the web and stuff like that, it's not a fantastic experience if you're doing any type of high-end GPU work. But they're getting there. It's getting better. It's way better than it's ever been before, and I think the team's amazing. But I love seeing them kind of do some cross-collaboration and bridging here, because that's only going to be good for Wayland, which ultimately is what we're all basing our future on as our display manager, right?
Whether you like it or not, that's what's happening.
Exactly, whether you like it or not. So there you go.
NVIDIA is actually doing some work on this as well, somewhat. It's mainly the X server team, but the EGL streams, having that being worked on for X-Wayland is good, because the NVIDIA The problem with NVIDIA, you know how when the Ubuntu 17.10 came out and they had the default was Wayland for the GNOME session, and if you had NVIDIA, it would force it automatically back to X.
Yes.
Not even consider it. It was because that NVIDIA made the EGL streams, which essentially ignored the existing code that was already in the kernel. So they wanted to make their own, and this allows this work that the Xorg team is making is allowing those types of APIs to work on Wayland. So it's possible that you wouldn't have to automatically just abandon it if you have NVIDIA. So that's good. I would like it for NVIDIA to just do it themselves, but
yeah,
baby steps.
Team Green, right, Zeb?
Absolutely.
So there's some other updates coming in 1.20, but I think that's going to be some good stuff. I'm interested in following Wayland and seeing where it goes, because I know it's supposed to be our future, and I'm waiting for it to get there fully so we can use it some more. But also, GNOME 3.30, talking about updates, they are starting to incorporate automatic updates in the next release of GNOME. So there's a bunch of features in GNOME 3.30, but one that's hit the headlines is their ability to automatically update applications. Now, currently, that's only going to work with Flatpaks. So you get the auto updates with Flatpaks, which kind of makes sense. But I assume maybe snaps and other things are coming soon?
Snaps have a built-in auto update already.
Oh, that's why it wasn't listed there, though. So that's done. So it would be their other repositories, I guess, would be the other ones they could add in there.
The other repositories, like the actual, like making it work with like debs and RPMs and stuff like that, because the app images don't have a mechanism for auto updating, and snaps have the automatic built-in with Snapd.
Nice.
Cool.
So there are some other improvements in here for Flatpaks as well that are really included in Nautilus, being able to discover and search for them. So we're getting more Flatpak love there in GNOME. Yay.
Sounds good.
I mean, I'm for Flatpak. I mean, I'm also for snaps. And
you're pro Flatpak?
I'm pro all three of them.
Nice.
So because they all work together and they don't conflict with each other. So there's no reason not to be for all of them. So I don't care. As long as a developer makes something for one of them, I don't care.
You bring up an interesting point, because I was reading an article that was talking about Linux being fractured software repositories, which cracked me up. But one of the points in it was that Flatpaks and snaps, when are we going to pick one? And I thought, why do we have to pick one? Why couldn't you use both? I mean, it kind of sticks with the Linux program. I use a combination of Flatpaks and snaps and everything else in between.
The debs and RPMs, you had to pick one because they conflicted with each other, whereas Flatpaks, snaps, and app images all work together, and you don't have to care. And as a user, on the user side, I loved not having to care about which one the developer wants to choose, because they like one technically better than the other. And on the developer side, I'm so happy to not have to make deb files, 50 deb files for 100 different distros and stuff like that.
Right.
That's a massive improvement on both sides. So I'm for all three of them, because there's no reason not to be.
There you go.
Good. Well, this next article will certainly be one that needs discussion. We've all come to getting used to the fact that every now and again Firefox comes along and takes its foot and shoves it straight in its mouth. And it's done it again. So Firefox is going to be experimenting with recommending articles. Now, my understanding of what this is going to be is Firefox is experimenting with recommending articles based on your browser history.
I don't need to talk about this one. Y'all go ahead.
This new experiment is a cooperation between Mozilla and Laserlike. Well, hang on a minute. Isn't Mozilla meant to be this exponent of freedom, and we're not going to use your data, we're not going to nick your data, it's not another Google? What are they doing, and who's Laserlike?
Well, so first off, I have no idea who Laserlike is, but I can say the fact that they're not taking your data without your permission, because this is an add-on, and if you wanted to use this, you have to install the add-on.
It's true.
So,
today, anyways.
We're talking about today, okay? Let's not worry about the future.
Because they have a great track record of not adding software in when you don't want it.
okay, so they've taken their foot out of their mouth, but they've still got their big toe stuck in their mouth.
So technically, yes, you do have to go in and install this software if you want them to recommend it. Now, who actually wants a service that recommends other things for you to browse? When I'm on the web, I know exactly what I want to go, and I want to be lost to myself. I don't want someone to tell me they recommend, I look at this or look at that. I don't need any of this crap. I don't know why this improves anybody's experience. Does anybody get on the web like, I don't know what to do. I wish there was a browser. It would tell me. Like, who wants this? Nobody wants this.
Well, everybody looks at news and they do RSS feeds and get stuff that's sent to them and stuff like that. So there's kind of a benefit there. But as far as like just
the
random
news is
stuff,
a perfect example because it's always wrong. There is nothing more that I hate than TMZ and celebrity news. It's banned from my home. Like, I hate celebrity news. I don't care about them. And every time I go into a news site, the first thing, like, I used to use Google News a lot. The first thing it would recommend is like, look what the Kardashians are up to. I'm like, I don't care. I literally could care less about what they're up to. I never click on the articles, but it constantly recommends them. This stuff is worthless, man. Absolutely worthless.
I get the same thing when I'm watching videos that they happen to put someone's name in the title of the video, and all of a sudden I start getting like recommendations for this. They're like, no, I don't care. Just because I watched a video that happened to talk about that person doesn't mean I care about that person.
Well, for me, this is just going to add to the awful situation that we're in at the moment. You go onto Amazon, you buy a product, and then 2 days later, Amazon say, oh, I know, Robert, why don't you buy this product? Hey, look at your records. I just bought it 2 days ago. Why do I need to buy it again?
Yeah.
And then they you've bought product A, and then up comes product Z. What on earth has it got to do with? It's not even B or C close to it. It's something totally random. And leave me alone. I know where I want to go. I know what I want to buy. Please don't experiment anymore, Firefox. Just do what you're good at and give us a browser, and we'll make our own mind up.
Nobody asked for this, not ever, and never will. We don't want recommendations. I don't want them from Laser, like Focus or whatever it's called. I don't want them from Pocket. I don't want them from Google. I don't want them from Amazon. Leave me alone and let me browse the web in peace.
So, okay, just to be clear, they should not stop doing experiments because that brought us container tabs and a lot of other cool things. So keep doing experiments, just not these. Not this kind of experiment.
Stop this one, please.
Feel free to stop this forever. And also, let me take out Pocket finally. Come on. I don't. Yes, Pocket is now open source, and that's great. I don't want it in my browser because I don't care and I don't use it. But
I agree. Listen, I just want to clarify. I love Firefox. It's my go-to browser. As I talked about last episode, Michael sold it on to me. I hate stuff like this. Because this stuff annoys me to tears. However, it is very important to mention this is not something supposedly they're automatically installing in your browser. It's a web extension you'd have to install currently. However, if they do put something like in this, I'm going to be singing Vivaldi again.
Yes, I would have to agree. I don't know, very begrudgingly, but Firefox has been my go-to browser for before it was called Firefox. So that would be hard for me to not have the workflow that I'm so used to because there's certain features that are in Firefox that I won't go into exactly, but they don't exist in any other browser, and without them, it would be just incredibly irritating for me.
Yeah.
So anyway, so one of the things that's also incredibly irritating is email.
Yes.
But in the sense of desktop email clients, there's very few of them that are good. And some of them don't get very many updates very quickly. But something that did get a recent update, which is very, very welcomed, is Thunderbird 60 has been released.
Yes, it is here. We've been waiting for this ever since we had him on the show.
Yeah, exactly. And
4 weeks ago?
I've had to wait 4 weeks, Zeb. Do you know how impatient I am?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to wait for popcorn to finish popping. I just take it out when the bag's half inflated because I'm impatient.
Yeah. Just when you hear one pop, that's enough.
Yeah, exactly. So Thunderbird's released, and they have some new features we've all been waiting for, like UI improvements. So it's looking fresh and cool now. It doesn't look it didn't look terrible before, but it was starting to show its age, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they've got some new fresh looks in there, and there's also some other notable features that they have. Any of these stick out to you guys?
Dark themes, thank you very much.
Everybody's loving the dark themes, man.
Like I like a mixture of dark and light themes because I want the ability to have some applications dark and some applications light, and the fact that they allow you to have the choice directly in the application is fantastic. Some of the applications that you use, they just use whatever the system uses and forces it on there. I like the ability of having to be able to turn off the dark on some things because it's not really conducive for reading. So the idea of how they're making dark themes work, if they're making the entire interface dark and then the actual email is a light theme, that's perfect for me because it makes it easier to read, but also the stuff that's, constant having to pay attention to it, that being dark makes it easier so you don't have to read every single word that's on the screen at all times. And I like the idea of the mixture.
I found something here quite amusing because this is the latest version of Thunderbird and they're bringing us all these wonderful new bits and pieces. And they're also bringing us in an authenticator for Yahoo and AOL.
Can you say Yahoo again, Zeb, please?
Yahoo. So do people actually still use Yahoo and AOL Mail?
They better not.
I guess they must do.
Apparently they do, and this is news in itself. People use Yahoo and AOL. How many times, let me ask the users, if anybody out there uses Yahoo Mail, how many times does Yahoo Mail have to be hacked before you decide, maybe I'll use something else? Is it the 4th, 5th, 6th? Well, no, we know it's not the 4th, 5th, or 6th because that's how many times it's already been hacked in like the last 3 years. So is it the 8th, 9th, and 10th that you go, maybe it should go somewhere else?
Could it be? I mean, I'm curious what a percentage would be of the people who are using, if you are using Yahoo, and if you are using that, what is the percentage of the people who are using it for garbage and they don't actually care?
Like a spam account type of thing.
So if you're like, hey, would you like to sign up for this particular thing because you're at this restaurant? No, I don't. But here's a Yahoo account, so you leave me alone.
That's a fair point, Michael. That's a fair point. If you use it as a junk mail account, that's exactly what it was intended for, as well as AOL account. If you use it for legitimate mail, please, for the love of all that's good in the world, switch to something more secure, like anything.
Anything.
Right? Yeah. But they've added in some, additional calendar improvements in there. They've got theming for their chat. So there's all kinds of cool things to check out in Thunderbird 60.
Yeah, sounds good. So there seems to be lots of releases in the air. Another company that's on the bandwagon for issuing new releases is LibreOffice. And LibreOffice 6.1 has been released with a whole raft of changes. And it's another one of those lists where I haven't got a clue what half of them mean. So I'm going to leave, various Mac OS, no, I don't use Mac, so I don't need to know about that one. DocX, import, export, never works anyway, so I don't know why they're still trying to do it, because Microsoft will never allow you to import their stuff.
It's like Zeb's
properly.
on a rant.
Well, because Microsoft will always do something different to make sure that these companies' systems don't work as well as they should do. And then everybody moans and says, oh, I know, I must be. But I do like LibreOffice because they do keep it fresh. They do keep bringing out new ideas. And what's funny about this is I have to use Office at work. And I go into work sometimes and I go to do something and I go, no, I'm not at home. I'm in the office. I've got to do it a different way now. And that way feels alien. And for me, that's great. That's losing those old reflexes from doing it the Windows ways. So I haven't actually installed the new release yet. I don't know if any of you guys have, but Michael, can you explain some of these more complicated features that are coming along?
Well, there's the things that are doing that are actually really good as far as like the complicated stuff is adding improvement to certain types of formats, and like the 2003 XML for import for Excel. That's good because any kind of format improvement for LibreOffice or any kind of open source Office suite to work with MS Office is good. But one of the things I like is the support for GTK3 dialog windows that you can now use on the Linux version of LibreOffice now supports native dialogue windows instead of like this weird kind of thing that they kind of created themselves a long time ago. But I think they kind of inherited that from OpenOffice. But
I've got a really technical one I can explain if you want, Michael.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
To generate a signature line now in this new one, you click Insert and then you click Signature Line.
Well, that's a very, very complicated one. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but actually, this is something I utilize quite often in Word and other documents for work. So having that there again is a very useful feature. An ability to export to EPUB, so people who are making their books within, LibreOffice, then you have the ability to, export straight to EPUB, and then you can publish that, of course, out to the various online repositories for ebooks. So there's all kinds of cool things in here, but what it really made me think of when I looked at all these changes is, imagine the world without this Office suite in Linux. Like, this is an incredible... There are other alternatives, but this is always the best, in my opinion. It's always been the best. And I love that I can open up, what is their equivalent, I think, called Sheets to Excel, and put in the formulas in there that I use in Excel that I've used for years, and they all work within Sheets perfectly. The taskbar and appearance is not far enough off that it takes me too long. Like Zeb said, it just takes me a second to go, okay, I'm not in Office and it's here. But for the most part, it's very familiar. This work here that they've done here for free is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And every time it comes with a new release, it makes me so happy because I think this is one of the standout premier tools, Office suites, to show the power of open source software.
It's a very good point because a lot of people look at it as it's a 6.1 release, so it's a maintenance basic, not like doesn't matter release. But basically, every time they make a new release, there's something that is very important to a lot of people that are using some kind of Office software. So it gives them a chance to embrace the open source aspects of it.
Yep.
And one of the funny things about LibreOffice is that LibreOffice is great. And if you're not aware, it was a fork of OpenOffice a very long time ago when a company that should not be named. That. Oh, yeah. So I'll go ahead and tell you then. So Oracle purchased Sun, and Sun created OpenOffice. Oracle decided to destroy OpenOffice, essentially making it terrible and trashy and making and really annoying all the developers who worked on it. So they just decided, we'll just completely abandon the OpenOffice brand because you own that brand, but the code's open source. We'll do whatever we want. So they created LibreOffice. And what's really cool about that is that sometimes OpenOffice still gets updates, and LibreOffice just goes, oh, let's see what this happens. Oh, that's a good one. We'll take that. And then they put it in theirs, and it's perfect.
Well, I would love to have this team on. I would love to do an interview with them. So if somebody's listening that knows somebody who's a developer with that team,
oh yeah, that'd be amazing. We
would love to have you guys on because I think the work you do is incredible, and I'd love to learn more about it, how it got started, and all the history of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, me too. That'd be fantastic. And some more fantastic news is that AMD has announced the pre-orders for their Threadripper 2. And
that voice, that was perfect, Michael.
People might have expected something else. But the Threadripper 2 is going to be... one of the things that, the Threadripper is known for being a beast processor. Yeah. It's like just a crazy, massive beast.
Yes.
One of the things that I love about it is that there was an announcement that Intel offered saying, hey, we got 28 cores, and this is like this big, powerful machine. And it was like not really available, and they had to do these ridiculous things to make it work. But the new Threadripper is going to have the maximum one's going to have 32 cores and 64 threads, and it will actually work.
Just sing to me when I hear that 32 cores and 64 threads. I just want to get my wallet out and throw it at them. This is just incredible. So we finally got the prices and the specs on these. You've got a couple families. Now, we laughed about this because AMD is not well known for their naming conventions, but I love their products. I love their new products especially. So you've got the X series of Threadrippers, which are costs between and these are the most reasonably priced ones, $649 to $899. 12 cores and 16 cores, depending if you have the 2920X or 2959. So that would be, of course, you just double that to figure out the threads there. So 24 threads and 32 threads consecutively. Then you have the WX series that has 24 cores and 48 threads. And then you have the Mecha, the 2990 WX, 32 core, 64 thread CPU. And this one runs somewhere around the $1,799 price mark. Now, there is no kind of blaming on Rocco that I can do to get my wife to forgive me for this kind of purchase. But man, I've got the Ryzen 7 2700X, which is 8 cores and 16 threads. So just imagine what I could do on my machine if I had 32 cores now instead of just 8. I mean, I would destroy all of you in Ballistic Overkill like that. But you couldn't even see my character. That's pretty much how it works,
that's
right?
Pretty much. That is exactly how it works. Yep.
Good.
But the only thing wrong with this is you've spent $1,799 on your Threadripper. You've forgotten that you've now got to go up to a 4K monitor so that when you put H-top on, it doesn't fall off the bottom of the screen. You can actually see. Because how are they going to cope on an ordinary 1080p monitor? How are they going to display 64 threads? I mean, that's just mind-boggling.
I just love it.
But more to the question, Ryan, would it fit your MSI motherboard?
You know, it wouldn't, because it is a different architecture, so you would need a new motherboard on top of that $1,799.
So there's another $500.
Yeah, but it does include, because they're trying to make sure you get the value for your money, a CPU fan. Now, if you get Intel CPUs, that's laughable, because the Intel CPU fans are terrible. But the AMD CPU fans are actually quite beautiful. The one that came with my Ryzen 7 2700X is a beautiful RGB, which makes it faster, fan that has the spiral fan that's absolutely gorgeous. So there you go.
Cool.
Yep. It's fans. I mean, it's a good deal at that point, right?
Yep, absolutely. You get a free fan with that $1,700.
Superb. Well, it certainly seems that AMD are on a roll as well as all these software companies, because, and I don't know why you guys keep giving me the technical things, because you just want to hear me mess it up, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So the AMD GPU, LRU, bulk patches, OpenCL, and Vulkan boosts.
Finally,
I said it properly. So I have absolutely, again, no idea what's going to happen. I'm no longer Team Red. Are you Team Red, Michael, or have you just got a basic Intel? What's your graphics card?
Okay, technically, I'm currently using an NVIDIA card, but I would say that I'll be Team Red whenever I buy a new machine or new parts specifically, because of the support that they have shown for Linux. The reason I went with NVIDIA is because prior to the past couple of years, AMD weren't showing that support to Linux, and that's the only reason I went with NVIDIA. But now that AMD it's not only are they showing support for NVIDIA, they're showing support for Linux, they're also showing support for open source, and that is a fantastic improvement. So I'm excited to try Team Red.
Yep. So this specifically is the LRUs they're talking about is last recently used functionality. And so it's basically a way of taking all the bulk processes out there and being able to figure out a better way to load those into a single operation when the GPU is handling them. So they were able to accomplish this, and the boost that they saw showed frame rates in Talos Principle, for instance, going from 147 to 163 frames per second using Vulkan, and latency dropping in OpenCL from 76 down to 40, which is incredible. So we're not going to see this in the 4.19 kernel because it just dropped, but we will see it in the 5.0 kernel likely. But what is unique about the Vega series card, the Vega 64, and I've talked about this before, is it keeps getting faster. And I'm not praising AMD on this because they released the card way before it was ready. And because of that, though, the people who've had the Vega at the beginning had a terrible experience. The people who have the Vega now are having a good experience, But that good experience keeps getting better and better as they figure out ways to unlock the potential of this card. Basically, they released the card before they had the software to really unlock its full architecture. And we're seeing that here. Every single week we see these new patches and bulks for the AMD drivers and cards, and it just keeps getting better. And that in itself is kind of cool. Again, I'm not happy that it didn't start out that way, but it is pretty neat having a card that instead of it getting kind of worse and you start getting jealous of what everybody else has, it actually is getting better and faster than it was the month before, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, which it's a negative in the idea that they released it before it was ready, but it's also really cool that you can, instead of having your hardware that's depreciative, like automatically, it's getting actually better. So, you know, it's there's two sides to that coin, and I think that if you are going to release it before it's ready, at least make it ready at some point, and then make it improvements as well. So that
there you go.
You know, at least they're compensating for that previous thing. So I'm for it.
All right, so we're going to hit in some gaming, and then we're going to do our tips and tricks section. But the first game up is considered the Linux Game of the Year, potentially. Michael, I'm pretty sure you would say Rocket League, so I'm not even going to ask you. But Zeb, what would be the Game of the Year for Linux, in your opinion, that you've played?
That I've played?
Yeah.
Dogafesto.
Dogafesto? Is it Dogafesto?
It's close, but I think it's probably going to have to be Bok.
Oh, Ballistic Overkill. So that would be a good one.
Yep. That's only because the only other game I could mention is Euro Truck Simulator, and that's never going to win.
Yeah.
That's never going to win the year of the Linux. But I did have a look at this, and I can see why they're excited about it. You know, you know by now that I'm not a gamer, but I can, and I am starting to appreciate what you and Michael are telling me about. It's not always the AAA graphics that win the day. But these graphics are pretty damn good. Now, whether it's any good as the type of genre that it's portraying or not, I don't know. But I was impressed enough by the video to think, yep, I can see why people would pick this.
Yeah, this has a Metroid Castlevania-like feel. The Gaming on Linux, who we love, we've had them on the show, has basically said this could be the contender for Game of the Year for them on Linux. It's absolutely beautiful 2D graphics on here. These are not cheaply, easily drawn graphics here. Somebody spent a ton of time on this artwork and the music and all of the secrets and maps that they have for this. The bosses look awesome. The action is just packed from beginning to end in this game. I absolutely cannot wait to get my hands on this one.
Oh, I totally agree. And there's like the reviews for this is actually really, really good. Like there's levels where some reviewers are giving it like 9.8 out of 10, like just insane ratings and stuff like that. And I also am referring to reviewers that aren't paid and just do 10 out of 10 automatically. Not those. But there's another thing about Dead Cells, because Dead Cells is a cool looking game, looks fun. The gameplay looks really interesting and unique, even though it's a platformer that you're kind of expecting to be a certain way that has a lot of unique mechanics. But there was something else that happened about a week ago, roughly. IGN announced showed their review of this game, and it was a direct copy of someone else's review of this game.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So and then like into the point where the phrasing that they said was like 90%. The same thing, like even the same words in the same order, and this and the person who found that they were copying them, and they just put them side by side so you can watch a video of one of IGN's immediately copying the other one, and it's interesting because like not only is it a great game, but it also has a little bit of drama around it. So gaming drama is not a very common thing in terms of like the press, but
this one's getting some.
Yeah, and IGN actually admitted that it was, like, they didn't realize it was a stolen thing because the person who wrote it was also the person who edited it. So that no one reviewed the stuff he did.
Interesting. Well, it's got to be tough to be doing gaming news sites and things like that when you've got real, journalism happening on gaming at Gaming on Linux. So there you go. There's their plug. And then for Steam on this game, you talked about positive reviews that aren't paid for. 15,000 people have reviewed this game so far, all very positive. So
Yeah.
that alone should tell you. Now, this is not an easy game. So if you're expecting to kind of just sit back and you don't like to die type of thing, you're going to have trouble playing this because there are no checkpoints. You kill, you die, you learn, you repeat. That's how this game's played.
I love these types of frustrating games that are just going to force me to not want to play, then I'll keep playing anyway.
There you go.
That's
now I know why you like it so much, Ryan, because you're always dying in Bach.
Exactly. I mean, I'm right. This is right up my alley. I don't care if I die.
So another game that has come to Linux is Forsaken Remastered, and this one is a really interesting game because of the styles of the visual styles and the gameplay styles and all the different game modes that are coming with it. So what have you checked it out?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this game looks absolutely very cool as well. Two really great games that I immediately added to my wish list when I saw them. Forsaken Remastered is out for Linux right now. It's 3D brutal shooter. It reminded me of a game that I knew I played when I was younger, like in my teens. It was called Descent or something like that out there, but it looked almost exactly like it. And I thought, man, I've played this game before. Maybe it was Forsaken back then, and this is the remastered version. I don't know, but I've played this game or something very similar to it before, and I loved it back then. And it just, for whatever reason, the Voodoo graphics card popped into my head. I feel like this game, or the one like it, came out when I first got a Voodoo, like NVIDIA graphics card or whatever it was back in the day. So... but anyways, the game looks very cool and fun, and the graphics, even though it's old and an older game and has been remastered, look fantastic to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I could play because, again, watching the video, it hasn't got that bobbing motion. This is more like a smooth flying type game. So, yeah, it's definitely one, as you say, put on your wish list and wait for the next Steam sale to come along and then give it a whirl. Looks pretty good.
So if you're happy with Turok or Turok 2, this is the same team that's bringing this remaster, is the same team that brought us Turok, which I picked up. I haven't played it yet, but I picked up for Linux as well. So the same team there has done this Forsaken remaster.
Excellent.
Yeah, and also you're referring to Iculus, I assume. And Iculus is one of the main, he's like the long-term gaming for Linux developer, to the point where at one point he was known as the Linux gaming industry.
Wow.
Because he did so much and pretty much did it by himself that every time he makes something, every time something comes out that he is a part of making it, you can know that it's a solid port. So it's fantastic that, he's being a part of this one as well.
All right, so now we're on to our tips and tricks of the week. Zeb, kick us off here.
Okay, so this is one that when I first saw it, I thought, what am I going to use this for? But the more you get into it and the more you look at it, the more it actually makes sense. Now, what you can do is you can use a command called @, and it's that simple, AT, and you give it a specific time and a specific date, and then you press enter. Then you tell it the command that you want it to do. Now, it could be something as simple as neofetch.
Yep. Then
you press, and I can't work out whether that's LS or IS.
No, it's just Control D. You just push Control D to kill it. I was giving, there's an example. You could use LS as a simple command to execute. But once you type that command in, then you just hit Control D.
Control D, and then it's scheduled.
Set. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So where I thought this could be useful for is how many times have you sat there and you've kicked off a backup and then you thought, oh, God, I've got to wait 40 minutes now for it to do it. Don't worry about it now. If you leave your computer on overnight, set this off to start off at 10 o'clock of an evening or 1 o'clock, whatever time you go to bed. Set up an rsync to another directory somewhere else on another drive. And when you wake up in the morning, it's all completed and it's all done and dusted. So there you go. It's @ you put your date and time in, or you put your time and then your date. Press enter. Enter the command you want. And I've got a question for Michael when I finish. And then just Control D to kill the command prompt, and then it will be scheduled. So that command that you put in, Michael, could that be a shell script?
Absolutely. I was about to say that. I was about to say the most powerful, it seems like this might not be as useful to some people. But the fact that you can take it and just run a shell script, you could make it do whatever you want and as many things as you want, and not have to worry about whether it happened or not, because it'll also give you like an output telling you it happened.
Nice.
So there's that benefit, and I think that this is a very easy to use solution outside of like something like cron, because cron gives you like very specific and like kind of esoteric in the way it works, because it's very custom of how you set everything up. So cron is more like a power user's approach to scheduling things, and this is a much simpler system to just say make it at this time and this date, and it'll schedule it. Whereas cron is do it this time, based on like based on the minutes, the seconds from now, and like things like that. This is a much more user-friendly aspect, and I am totally on board with this.
So our patrons are recommending in chat, Michael, that you could use this to troll somebody by using the sudo rm-rf command and then schedule that for at midnight. So if you don't like somebody, go to their computer, you use the @ command, then you run away from it, and then at midnight, boom, their computer's faster.
Well,
their computer's faster. Good thing sudo requires a password.
Yeah, now I was thinking something a bit more childish, like your colleague at work is using Linux and he's got a very important meeting that he's got to attend at 12 o'clock. So when he shoots out to the coffee break, because nobody locks their machine, you just put an @on that shuts the machine down at 11:59. So he comes back, he's just about to dial into his meeting, poof, the machine goes.
Or you can mess with people in like various different ways of like automatically scheduling their wallpaper to change.
I love how instead of actually figuring out how to use this usefully, we've all just figured out ways to troll our coworkers. I love it.
Yeah, April Fool's jokes.
There you go.
Awesome. Yeah.
So we have a software spotlight as well, and this week it is Gpick. This is our software pick of the week. You can match any color you have in photo or web page with spacebar and just a couple of clicks here. Now, Michael, as a web developer, this has to be something really useful for you.
Yes, I think color pickers are actually fantastic, and they provide a lot of benefits to like basically anything. A designer of any kind would be beneficial, like would find this a good option, because being able to not have to worry about getting the colors like directly on your screen accurate to what you see, because you can calibrate your monitor, but you have to do that often. And you don't necessarily need to calibrate every monitor. So if you calibrate one and it's the correct color you want, and you move that window to another monitor, that color is going to be probably wrong, and it'll look weird. But in this way, you can just use the color picker and get an exact perfect drop of like what color that's supposed to be. So it makes it a lot easier to do, doing a lot of different modifications to like gradients and things like that without having to do a ton of effort, and being able to choose like what type of color output it gives you, like RGB or CMYK or hex, makes a lot of stuff much more convenient. So there's also another.
No, don't do it, Michael. Don't you do it, Michael. We picked one software. You do not ruin it. You do not ruin it.
So Gpick is a good tool, and I will say something after mentioning this, but I will say that Gpick is a very good tool, and I do like it. But there also happens to be another application that happens to be made by KDE called Color Chooser, but technically it's K Color Chooser.
Oh my gosh! Of course it is.
I did say Color Chooser properly. It actually should just be take the word color and put K instead. Why is it K Color Chooser?
That is the silliest thing.
Yeah, it's very lazy. It's like you could. There isn't already a super lazy thing to do, and you didn't even do that.
I think despite them, I'm going to call it KCLer Chooser.
KCLer Chooser. I like it. So K Color Chooser is actually a really good tool that provides the same kind of thing. It doesn't have all of the different color outputs that Gpick does, and I would say that as a fan of the KDE project, Gpick is better than K Color Chooser.
Whoa! Look at that. See, Michael,
you heard it here first.
Yeah, Michael can at times not be just a KDE fanboy.
But with that said, I do
stop. End of show. Roll
no,
credits.
No, we can't. We can't have end of show because I do have to do one particular thing, and that's just to say that the K-Color Chooser dialogue system is built into other applications, which is a benefit. So even though it's not as good, being able to say, launch something from your file manager even, or launch it from GIMP or something like that and automatically open up a color chooser that's built into the system is fantastic. So there is that. Like the integration is really good, but GPIG is better.
There you go.
That's enough for this episode. So, a big thank you to each and every one of you supporting us by watching and listening to Destination Linux. So, we also appreciate any type of feedback you can give us. And Zeb, how can they get a hold of us?
Well, as you remember, I do this every week, so I can almost read it off now without looking at my monitor. But please remember that you can get back to us, and I know I keep repeating it week after week, but it really is important. And we've been so lucky these last 3 weeks to have 3 totally different emails. But explaining why Linux was important to them and how it works for them and why it's made a difference to their life. So keep those emails coming in. You can get those emails to us on comments@destinationlinux.org. You can get us in our Telegram group. You can get us on Discord and Mumble and on our website, which is destinationlinux.org. You can get us on Google Plus and Twitter. And of course, you can add your comments to the show when it's published at the end of the week. So we really do like reading them, and we try to answer as many of them as we can. So please keep it coming.
There you go. And I'm going to be Michael this week and say, you need to like that smash button, man. You need to like that smash button.
Exactly. I completely agree. Because, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. The more you engage with us, the more we know about what you like and what you don't like about the show. Hopefully you like more than you don't. So, but anyway, definitely like that smash button. And everybody have a great week. And remember, the journey itself is just as vital as the destination.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
You just had to change that up, didn't you?
I did.
It's just as vital as the destination.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Destination Linux podcast.
The patrons come here with the understanding that the show starts at 4:30, and it doesn't look like the show's starting at 4:30, Michael.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, if you would like to help me, will you take the even number articles? I'll just do it.
Wow, that was not going to work, whatever you were going to ask.
That's why I said I'll just do it. Because it's like, that's ridiculous.
We expect nothing and are rarely disappointed.
Who said that?